Oh, yeah, look at that. Actually, look at it. I guess I put it in my book. There you go. This is the end of the mimer. But I'm going to give you the end of the mimer when you show up for me. I'll give you the end when you show up. Okay, we made it up to Yud Aleph. So just quickly to go over the atomic bomb that we saw in Ches, Tes, and Yud. We had a question. Why is there something called Tefillah LaMoshe? Because Moshe is the Usher, and what is the Usher daven for? Right? That was one question. And the second question was, why Dafka Tefillah as opposed to Torah? If Moshe is Torah, Moshe is Das Elyon, Moshe is that level of Atzmas or Ein Sof Shelifnei Tzimtzum, right? So if that's the level of Elokus that Moshe experiences, so then why is it that the tikkun of the world below shouldn't be through the hamshacha drawing down of Teres Moshe? Why is it Dafka Tfilas Moshe? Why does it come from a Veda from below? So the Rebbe gave two answers. Is Vav and Zayin, the answer was because in order for the lower level of reality, the Lamata, to be fully elevated, then the revelation has to come as a result of the Aveda from below, because then it affects the below. It's not simply imposed on the below, but the below is elevated by virtue of its Aveda. That was the first answer, right? So it's all about how the light affects Malchus. I mean, that's really what it was all about, right? Seder, that rings a bell?
Yeah.
Okay. Is the air on?
Yeah.
Okay, good. It's psychological. I don't feel it, but if it's on, I'll feel better. So the second answer that the Rebbe gave, then the Rebbe says in Oisches, and the Rebbe talks about the fact that the advantage of the Aveda from below is not only mitzad, the below, it actually affects the light more powerfully. And that was the incredible idea that we saw in the last 2 days, especially yesterday. Right. Firstly, what we saw, it wasn't 2 days. It was Thursday. But what we saw on Thursday is that the three different levels of Ava that exist, Ava v'chol levavcha, v'chol nafshcha, v'chol me'odecha, those three levels of Ava are the source of the fact that there are three different levels of light called Mamale, Seviv, and Etzem Ha'or. Why? I agree. It's you should smile and laugh. It's unbelievable. I was talking, Izzy and I were talking, Zachariah was talking by our table yesterday. We should have a safe flight. He just flew out today. He got a flight out today. 7 o'clock, he's on the flight. So he said that when he and Gabriel were learning this mimer, they got to Ois Tes, and they thought they kept going over because they thought they weren't understanding it properly. It can't be the Rebbe saying this. That's what the Rebbe says. Okay, so why is that? That is because our Aveda is sourced in Atzmus. Right, we talked about it at length yesterday. Up there in Atzmus, what did the Eibishter want? Our Aveda down here. He wants you and I to do mitzvahs down here. That's what gives him a kick. Okay, so that means that every level of reality, so to speak, I mean, every time you mention Atzmus, you say so to speak. Every level of reality, so to speak, in between Atzmus and Olam Hazeh only exists ultimately in order to get to Olam Hazeh. Now, and it also, and this is the most important point that's emphasized in Chassidus, not just in this mimer, all over Chassidus, that every level of reality outside Atzmus exists only because of the Ratzon of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and not because it must exist. No level of reality has what's called in Chassidus mechuyev hametzias, necessary existence, except one level of reality, and that's called Atzmus. The only thing that must exist is the Eibishter. The Eibishter is, and he's not going anywhere. Every other level of existence only exists, the highest level of infinite and beyond infinite godly light only exists because HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants that level of reality to exist. And what's the panemius of their existence? To ultimately end up in Olam Hazeh. And what's Olam Hazeh all about? That you and I should put on tefillin, you and I should learn Torah, you and I should be kind to another Jew. That's what Olam Hazeh is about. Avoid it from below. Oh, so therefore, the Rebbe said to us, the three levels of Ava, the three levels of Aveda that you and I are challenged to express, love, b'chol levavcho, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol me'odecha, those three levels are the source of those three levels of light. Because those three levels of Ava, those three levels of Aveda ultimately are sourced in Atzmus. And the light is a Gilui. It's a Gilui. Right? Okay. Therefore, the Rebbe said an even greater finish in Yud. Therefore, when you and I are challenged to bring about a tikkun of the world, right? Asher bara Elokim lasois, and the Medrash says, Rashi brings in Chumash, lasois l'takein, to fix. That word lasois is superfluous in the pasuk. Asher bara Elokim, that Hakadosh Baruch Hu created. Why does it say lasois? Right? Because you and I have to fix the world. What are we fixing? We're elevating not simply the world, we're elevating every level of reality between Atzmus and us. Even Atzmus or Ein Sof is ultimately elevated by virtue of the fact that you and I do mitzvahs down here. Why? Because that level of light is then connected to its source in Atzmus, because it's now, so to speak, shining down, not so to speak, it's shining down here, and that's its ultimate purpose. So once it fulfills its purpose, it's elevated by virtue of that fulfillment of purpose, because that's what elevation is, right? If you're fulfilling your purpose, you're elevating yourself, you're connecting to your source. Now, what's the source of Atzmus and Ein Sof? Atzmus. That's its source. So it's connecting to that and expressing that. Okay. And we saw that amazing line, we're not going to go over it again, but we saw that amazing line of that it reaches an even higher state of Bilti Kul, which is like a wild thing to say. Okay, and that was Tefillah L'Meisha. That was Tefillah L'Meisha. But Tzaddik Bir, still have to ask a question. We mentioned this question at the end of Shir yesterday, just like at the beginning of the Maimer we asked, how can it possibly be that Moshe Rabbeinu is the source of our ability to be connected to the choik of Zois Chukas, to the choik of Paraduma, when for Moshe himself it's not a choik? Right? Okay, that was our question at the beginning of the Maimer. Now we're going to ask the same thing relative to Tefillah L'Meisha. Tefillah L'Meisha is Moshe being mamshich this level of light by virtue of his avodah, or by virtue of avodah in itself, but his. Moshe's not lacking that level. So why is this relevant to him? Let's see. But Tzaddik Bir, Ha'ilui Shit, the bottom of Shin Chav Gimel, Ois Yud Aleph. Ha'ilui Shenase B'Giluim de L'Mayla. The elevation that's brought about in the Giluim, in the states of revelation, synonym or the L'Mayla, of above, Al Yedei Avodah Sa'adim, through our Avodah, which is what we've just explained in Ches, Tes, and Yud. The cave and the Zeh, Al Yedei Avodah, who, Be'ikr, essentially, not completely, Kesham Shochav Agilui Shalem, when the drawing down and revelation of this level of light, Hu Al Yedei Avodah Sa'adim. Right? And that's what we saw, maybe in footnote 66, says go look at footnote 65. That's what we saw in the footnote we learned yesterday. Right? The cave and the Zeh, and since that Zeh shall Yedei Tfilas Meisha, that as a result of Tfilas Meisha, the avodah from below, Haisam Shochav Agilui, there was this drawing down in Revelation, who lay rak b'negei Knesset Yisrael. It doesn't only affect Am Yisrael down here, and also we saw earlier on, if you remember, Knesset Yisrael, when we started this discussion, so Knesset Yisrael, that was in Vav. Knesset Yisrael is also Malchus. Malchus is that which is kones, collects all of the of the 6 spheres above. So Knesset Yisrael and Malchus are one and the same. Right? Knesset Yisrael in Neshamas is Am Yisrael, in Elokus it's Malchus. Urak v'negei Knesset Yisrael, it only affects us below Knesset Yisrael k'pshuta, simple pshat, the Jewish people. But Gam Spheres of Malchus, and also Spheres of Malchus, that's what we talked about in Vav and Zion. Aval b'negei l'Meisha, but relative to Meisha, and this is the question we just asked outside, the Rebbe's asking it inside. Again, it's very similar to the question we asked at the very beginning of the Maimer regarding Paraduma. Ein shayach l'Meisha, it's not relevant at first glance, loymar, to say, Sham shochav agilu, that this drawing down in Revelation, I saw you date Tfilosa, was dafta as a result of his tefillah. Why? Shem Meshu Usher, he's the Usher, so he's not lacking anything. Right? Which we've talked about at great length in different places in the Maimer. So if he's the Usher and he's not lacking anything, so then he doesn't need the Avodah in order to bring this level forward down. Meaning he's living this level. So there's nothing lacking in him. There's no Avodah necessary. The inyan of Usher, the whole idea of the Usher, hu shemi'irim etzlei begilui. It's that it shines to him in a revealed way, kol hagiluyim, all levels of godly revelation. Vafilu agilui, even the gilui da'atzmus ein sof. That level of atzmus ein sof, which we've talked about so often in the Maimer, that we should certainly know what we're talking about when we say that. Shalamayim mishaychis leilamus, that's beyond any relevance to the worlds. Same question we asked relative to Chok. Val pizeh, haliyah v'sefa, this elevation and addition, increase, shenases, that's brought about ba'or, in the light itself, which is what we explained in Yeshiva. Al yedei tfilas Mesha, who l'cha'oras, first glance, rak l'gabi achedim, is only relative to others, but l'gabi Mesha atzmo, not relevant to Mesha himself. Because Mesha's already there. Okay? That's the same question we asked relative to Paradim. The question's clear, because we're going to see the answer, just tighten your seatbelt. Right? V'yesh leimer. The way the Mashpim explain what goes on in this Maimer, up until now we've explained the Inyan of Tefillah L'Mesha. Now the Rebbe is explaining the Inyan of his Kashkus. In a revolutionary understanding of the Inyan of Moshe Rabbeinu and what his Kashkus is. V'yesh leimer abir b'zeh. Again, no footnote. The cave and Shem Meshu Doyan Shel Yisrael, that since Meshu is the shepherd of the Jewish people, Raya Mehemna, right? The faithful shepherd and the shepherd of faith. That's Mesha. Lochein, therefore, the Rebbe says, Kishachaser is inyan b'Knesset Yisrael, when there's lacking any reality in Knesset Yisrael, in the Jewish people, who can Mesha chaser inyan gam etzle. This is as if this thing is also lacking by him, because he identifies with the Jewish people so powerfully. And now it's not only, the Rebbe is going to explain, it's much deeper than simply experiencing certain pain in our lacking. The Neisif is in addition to the fact Shahatzar Shalo, that his pain, Al Zeh Shechosu Yisrael, that something is lacking to the Jewish people. Hayatzar Godel B'Yosef was a very, very deep and powerful tsar. His pain would be great pain. Ki ilu atzmei hayachoser, as if he himself was the one lacking, but we know he's not. Hine, the Rebbe says even deeper. Gama chisaron d'Yisrael hayachisaron shalom. The lacking of the Jewish people is a lacking formation. Now, in footnote 67, we're going to go to footnote 67, but not right now. The Rebbe is going to answer the obvious question that you might ask. Wait a minute, I understand. So now he's not an usher. Okay, we'll say it. We're going to deal with that. Okay, but the Rebbe in this mimer, the Rebbe does not deal with it. Footnote 67 is going to tell us to go to the mimer that the Rebbe said 2 days later, where he did deal with it. Here he just finished off this idea. He didn't deal with that question. Okay, and we'll talk about it outside. But first, let's see what the Rebbe says. Okay, so in other words, then we're going to see why. Who's Moshe? Moshe is the Raya Mehemna. Moshe is the shepherd of the Jewish people. That means Moshe is absolutely and completely identified with the Jewish people. Therefore, the lacking of the Jewish people affects Moshe Rabbeinu. Yes, that seems to mean that he's no longer an usher. Okay, we'll get there. All right. Don't worry about that. Put that on the back burner. Ki Moshe v'Yisrael hem chad, because Moshe and the Jewish people are one. Ubelosh and Rashi, famous Rashi in Dafka Parshas Chukas, which of course is this mimer was said on Shabbos Parshas Chukas. Right? When in relation to the 2 different statements in the Torah that talk about sending shluchim to Sa'ir. So once it says Yisrael sent and once it says Moshe sent. So Rashi says this famous line that what? Where is it? Where'd it go? Ki Moshe v'Yisrael hem chad, u'b'loshen Rashi, she-Moshe hu Yisrael v'Yisrael hem Moshe. Moshe sending and Yisrael saying exactly the same thing because they're one and the same thing. And then the last line that Rashi says, which the Rebbe doesn't quote here but quotes very often, what's the next line in that Rashi? Rashi and Chumash, downtown Judaism. What's the next line? Midtown, like, not uptown or downtown. This is midtown, right? What does Rashi say? Shanasi hu akal, that the nasi is all. Right? That's the next line in Rashi. Right? So Moshe and Am Yisrael are one. What does that mean in Pnimius? Well, it's explained in Chassidus that what? That Moshe Rabbeinu is the neshama klolis of all the Jews of that generation. That Moshe Rabbeinu's Yechida, Moshe Rabbeinu's Yechida Shebenefesh is called the Yechida klolis, and that is and each Yid is Yechida Pratis. That Yid's particular Yechida Shebenefesh, the deepest place in your soul, is a little piece of Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama. That's the connection of Moshe to the Am. Right? And that's why Moshe says, Ki sheish me'es ragli ha'am asher anochi bekirbei, the 600,000 people that I'm in their midst. Now, simple pshat is that I'm amongst them, but the pnimis of it is I'm in their midst. Right?
So, but Hashem says, I'll be in the midst of.
Right? But the pnimius of our neshama is Moshe's neshama. And that's what it means that Moshe and Yisrael are chad. It's the pshat in that Medrash Chazal that Rashi quotes in the chukas. Okay. So therefore the Rebbe says an amazing thing. Loche. Hagam shemesha ya osher. Anybody know why that would happen?
Maybe pause it and then.
Yeah, stop it for a minute.
Looks pretty cool, huh? I mean, it's a little distracting as I move from side to side to see myself that way. I mean, I hope I haven't come to that. What do I do?
Is there a way to pause
You want
it?
to play with it? Yeah, play with it for a second. You don't want to go out of it. You just want to pause it. Okay. So Meisha V'Yisrael Chad. What does that mean? Meisha's Raya Mehemna. That means Meisha experiences the tsar not as one experiencing the tsar of another, but one feeling his own tsar. So therefore, there's a certain lacking in Meisha. Okay, again, it raises the question: why is it Tefillah Lashib said? We'll come back to that. Right?
What does it mean, tsar?
Pain. V'lochen Hagam Meisha ya Osher. That even though Moshe was Osher, and that means there's a revelation of all of the levels of godly light. Mikol Makayim, nevertheless, cave and Yisrael ayu chaserim agilui. Since this revelation was lacking by the Jewish people, v'rak al yedei aveda, and only through the aveda tefillah shel Moshe nischadesh agilui legabam, and only through the tefillah of Moshe was this renewed this gilui by them, meaning it took a level of Aveda to bring about the revelation of this gilui by the Jewish people, not by Moshe, but by the Jewish people. Therefore, gam legave Moshe, so too by Moshe, nischadesh gilui al yedei tefillah. So too Moshe, there's a revelation of this incredible gilui through the Aveda from below, through his tefillah. Even though Mitzad the Chad Moshe is not lacking, but as a result of Moshe's intense connection to the Jewish people, so he is lacking. Well, again, we'll talk about that. And therefore, that lack, by virtue of the fact that we no longer lack, so then there's an elevation by him.
I can't hear it, but the video can be seen. Meaning, the screen, my screen is not moving; it's frozen.
Okay.
I can still hear you.
But you can't hear it?
You can hear it.
Okay. Yeah? So, there's a lacking in the Jewish people. That brings about some sort of, what's the word when you identify so powerfully with someone that you experience it yourself? Well, there's a word in English.
Tsar?
Yeah, there's pain, but there's a word in English in that identification.
I think it's the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is you are with them.
No, but it's not. It's deeper than that. It's not that I have empathy for him, because that's still me and him. Yes, you're right. Sympathy, the empathy is deeper than sympathy. Meaning that I identify completely. I experience it. I'm identifying it with completely. There is a word, like some sort of clandestine. Okay, but whatever. Okay, so Mesha's lacking. Our lacking brings about some level of lacking in Mesha, such that when our lacking disappears, then that affects Mesha positively. Now the Rebbe says in the bracket something quite astounding. Ulo Hosif. The brackets go down to the second last line. The fact that Moshe is the Raya Mehemno, that Moshe is the shepherd of the Jewish people, Zeu Inyana Ikari. That's the essential aspect of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's who Moshe really is. Keep reading. V'kol ha'mayla shelo, all of the incredible lofty levels of Moshe that we've discussed in this mimer, Kael, including Zeh, Shahaya Asher Gam Beruchnius, including this, that he's also an Asher and Ruchnius, which means he's Bechinas Das Elyon, Shemekabel Miatik. All of this is review, is what Rabbi explained to us in the mimer relative to Moshe. All of these incredible levels of Moshe Rabbeinu's connection to a Kadosh Baruch Hu, Hem Tfeilim, they're secondary. Bechinas Chitzonius, that's the Chitzonius of Moshe Rabbeinu. Legave, relative zeh to this, Shahaya Roin Shel Yisrael, that he's the shepherd of the Jewish people. What did the Rebbe just say? We just learned, we spent this, in this mimer, we learned some amazing things about Moshe Rabbeinu. And the level of elokus that Moshe Rabbeinu experiences and is conscious of is just absolutely astounding. The Rebbe just said, all of that is only the chitzonius of Moshe. The pnimius of Moshe is you. You're the pnimius of Moshe Rabbeinu, because he's your roeh. And what all he cares about is you. The pnimius of Moshe is your welfare, your spiritual welfare, your physical welfare, your life. That's the pnimius of Moshe Rabbeinu. What's the chitzonius of Moshe? All the stories we tell. This little miracle and that little miracle and this amazing thing and that amazing thing. That's all the chitzonius of Moshe. What's the pnimius of Moshe Rabbeinu? Dollars. Caring about the welfare of every single Jew, no matter who they are. That's really all Moshe cares about. His level in elokus, I assume it's rather pleasant. That's not what he's about. He does that. Why? That's also who he is. But that's his chitzonius, the Rebbe says. That's an unbelievable thing to say.
Isn't that kind of revolutionary?
That's somewhat revolutionary. Yes. Seventh generation, you get the things revealed to you that you didn't know before. Val Pizeh, based on this, Yuvan Yosef. Now it's understood even more. Shagam Lagabe Moshe Nischada Shagilu Ayidei Tefillah, that by Moshe this revelation happens through Tefillah. Hagam Shemitzad Ashir Shela, even though in terms of his Ashir is his own existence, Bechinas Das Elyon, and we know that that's Das Elyon. Heiru Etzloi, it shines to him, Gam Lifnei Zeh, Kol Giluyim, all of these levels of revelation shine to Moshe before this. But what's Moshe all about? Moshe is not all about the level of godliness that he experiences. Moshe is all about our welfare. And if that level is lacking by us, then it's lacking by Moshe. Ki zeh sheiru etzloi kol giluyim gam lifnei zeh mitzad ashiru shaloi, that which Moshe was privy to all of these levels of godly revelation as a result of his ashirus. Hu bechinas chitzonius shaloi. That's the chitzonius of Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu is someone so beyond anything we can imagine that we can barely talk about it. That's all chitzonius. That's just unbelievable. But what's Moshe's pnimius? Your welfare, spiritual, material, zeh royan shel Yisrael. So on that level of Moshe, then when there's a revelation to us, then there's a revelation of the tefillah, this revelation, there's a renewal of this revelation al yidei tefillah. Araveda below. V'lochein ha'ilui shenase b'giluim de l'maylo. The elevation that's brought as a result of, that's brought regarding the giluim de l'maylo al yidei, by virtue of the fact shenimshechu al yidei aveda, that they were drawn down through our aveda tefillah. Again, Moshe also affects Moshe. Why does it affect Moshe? Because anything that affects us affects Moshe. Because Moshe is one with us. That's outside of the brackets. In the brackets, the Rebbe said an absolutely astounding idea about the meaning of his kashrus. Now, in the brackets, there's footnote 69. Let's see footnote 69 first. Then we'll see 67. V'lochein, the Rebbe says. What did Moshe say at the Chet Egel? Amar v'im ayin. If you're going to wipe out the Jewish people, and you're not going to forgive them, wipe me out from the book that you wrote. What does that mean? Kol Torah kula, from the Torah. So what's Moshe saying? He's saying what we just said. Ki afilu Torah, even Torah. Af shem Moshe nasan nafshe lo Torah. Even though Moshe gave his whole soul for Torah. It's called Torah's Moshe Avdi. Moshe's whole life was to bring Torah to the Jewish people. For the sake of the Jewish people, what was Moshe willing to give up? Torah. Even the Torah. So take me out of the Torah.
Wow.
If you're going to harm the Jewish people, I don't want anything to do that. Because what's the pneumius of Moshe? A pneumius of Moshe. Yisrael. And so, Av shem Moshe nasan nafshe al Torah, eina pneumius of Moshe. Yisrael. Rabbi Baruch Kaplan, Sichas Chelech Afalef. It's a sicha there, where the Rebbe talks about it in Parsha. There's a Simchas Torah Tafshin Mem Tes. It's a sicha. They made a sicha. They printed a sicha, and it's in Chelek Lamed Dalet. The Rebbe talks about in that Farbrengen. So the Rebbe Farbrengen about the idea that the Torah ends with Moshe breaking the luchos. How can the Torah end with something negative? And how could Moshe break the luchos? The Rebbe explains, also talks along these lines there, that the pneumius of Moshe is the welfare of the Jewish people. By breaking the luchos, what does Rashi say Moshe did? He got rid of the shtar that would obligate the Jews to not serve idols. Right? So now there's no document, so to speak. The marriage is broken, so the adultery is no longer adultery. I mean, who's he saving? The Jewish people. What's he willing to do? He's willing to break the luchos to save the Jewish people. Right? Now, what's the pneumius of all that? Torah doesn't matter? Of course Torah matters. Everything you and I do is based on Torah, and we can't move a macrometer from what's written in Shulchan Aruch. Right? But what, in terms of source, what's higher? The source of Yisrael or the source of Torah? So the Medrash says. The Medrash says there's two Midrashim, one in Bereshis Rabbah, one in Tana Rabbi Eliyahu. In Bereshis Rabbah, and this is quoted by Rashi in Chumash, Bereshis Bada Elokim, Bishvil Reshis, for the sake of Reshis. Right? And Rashi says, Ein Reshis El Torah, Ein Reshis El Yisrael. And brings particularly in the what are the two Reshises? What are the two things that exist? And this is what the Medrash says. The two things that exist, so to speak, before the creation of the world. Torah and Am Yisrael. Torah and Nishmas Yisrael. The Neshamas of the Jewish people. Okay. So, fine. So Tana Rabbi Eliyahu asks, Rashi doesn't bring this up in his Perish and Chumash. He quotes the Medrash Rabbah. Tana Rabbi Eliyahu asks, which of those is first? Yisrael or Torah? And the Medrash answers, Yisrael. Shekasu b'Torah, daber el b'nei Yisrael. It's written in the Torah, speak to the Jewish people. So to speak, they're already there. Okay, now what does that mean? We're not talking in time. We're talking in level and closeness to the Eibishter. So what exists for the sake of what, so to speak? Now, if you say Torah is first, then you basically say as follows. Right? And if you would ask a lot of people, they would basically say this, right? Because they might not have learned that measures carefully enough. Right? That what? What does the Eibishter care about? Torah? That's what the Eibishter cares about. What does he need? He needs some people to keep the Torah. So those people are called Am Yisrael. Because if there's no one keeping the Torah, so then it's a bracha levatala. There's nothing going on. Right? So you need a people to keep the Torah. But what is the Eibishter really interested in? Torah. And then, so Torah, so to speak, comes first, and then Yisrael. Okay, so then, what about a Jew who doesn't keep the Torah? Rahman Islan? Waste of time. Not worth the ground he's standing on. Right? Because after all, it's all about Torah. He's not doing Torah, so then he's just useless. Chas v'shalom. Okay. Well, if it's the other way around, which is what it is, what's the dearest thing in the Eibishter's eyes? Yisrael. What's Torah? Torah is that which allows Am Yisrael down here to connect to their source up there. You and I need Torah to connect. Why? Because that's what the Kadosh Baruch Hu decided. Could the Kadosh Baruch Hu connect us to him without Torah? Well, that's his whole mimer, right? Could he do it without a Veda? Yeah, absolutely, he could do it without a Veda, but he wanted a Veda. Now, what's that a Veda? That's Torah. Okay, so the Eibishter then, so to speak, brings into reality this thing called Torah. What's Torah? Torah is that which allows Nishmas Yisrael to express themselves properly down here in Eilam Hazeh and bring about the fulfillment of their purpose down here in Eilam Hazeh. That's Torah. Okay, what about a Jew who doesn't keep Torah? Still a Jew. Still the most important thing in the eyes of Kadosh Baruch Hu. He's just missing the opportunity that Eilam Hazeh gives him, and it's a terrible fisfus. It's mamash Chabad. Like someone who has $5 million in the bank and walks around schnorring nickels and dimes and buys himself, and eats stale bread out of the garbage. Why are you doing that? You have $5 million in the bank. You don't have to live this way. No one told him he had $500 in the bank. $5 million in the bank. Okay. So living a life that isn't expressing who he could be. Okay. But that doesn't mean that's not who he is. That's who he is. And who sees that most clearly? Now back to our Moshe. Moshe is the one who sees that. Moshe is the Rei Yisrael. That amazing story of the Frierdiker Rebbe, which we've talked about a couple of times. It's always worth repeating. Absolutely astounding story of the Frierdiker Rebbe. The Rebbe once walked downstairs from having been upstairs by the Frierdiker Rebbe before Yud The Frierdiker Rebbe's Rebbe. He was upstairs, and the Rebbe came downstairs, and he ran into. I believe they are now, they were Bachrim then, but they're now, as I believe, I always get this wrong. I'm pretty sure it was Rabbi Sharfstein and Rabbi Edelman. We're both in Massachusetts, interestingly enough. They were Bachrim. This is before the Rebbe's Rebbe. Frierdiker Rebbe is still Rebbe. And there were two Bachrim downstairs. The Rebbe came down and said, I just heard an amazing thing from the Shver. Do you want to hear it? The Rebbe saw them and said, I just heard something unbelievable from the Rebbe. So they said, of course. So what was going on after the war? Right, the Frierdiker Rebbe he got to America in 1940, lived until 1950. Okay, so 5 years after the war, the Frierdiker Rebbe was Rebbe. Now that was obviously a rather tumultuous time in America, also as people were coming, and so many broken, shattered people were coming to America after the war. And the question was in 770, which was obviously a lot smaller than we know it now. And when you're thinking of 770, then there's no downstairs. There's only upstairs in the small zal after the right. There's no big hall downstairs. That happened 20 some odd years later. So the question was, these people, a lot of whom who had sort of given a get to a Kadosh Baruch Hu after what they had been through, they would come. What did these people know? They knew Yiddishkeit. That doesn't mean they were frum anymore. They were pretty shattered and pretty angry at Kadosh Baruch Hu, but they still felt comfortable walking into a shul and talking to Yidden, right? That was still something they could do. So the question was, should these people be accepted warmly, or should they be shunned because they've turned their back on the Eibishter and they shouldn't be, So there were people who felt the latter position, that we can't really be so welcoming because then we're accepting their decision. We might understand their decision, we might not judge it, but we can't accept their decision. Okay. So the Rebbe, obviously, our Rebbe, was in the first camp, was accept the people warmly and graciously and with tremendous love, etc., etc. But the Rebbe was getting a certain amount of opposition from other people around 770 in those days. The old Russians. Russians tend to be less sympathetic and empathetic. Right? They're tough. Okay, so they have to tell them what's true, or away you go. Fine. The Rebbe went to ask the Shver, who's right? What did the Frierdiker Rebbe say? The Frierdiker Rebbe said, a father loves all of his children equally. Doesn't love one child more than another child. Loves all of his children equally. But if the father has a handicapped child, he's going to have a special relationship with that child because of his handicap. It doesn't mean he loves him any more than he loves the other child, but there's a handicap, and that's going to affect the father's yachas to that child. Positively. He's going to feel a stronger connection to that child on a certain level as a result of his handicap. Frierdiker Rebbe said a Jew doesn't put on tefillin. It's like a Jew without an arm. He's handicapped. His father has a special place for him in his heart. That is really unbelievable. Wow. Now he took off the arm himself. Right? Okay, but say that, he didn't. He didn't. The Jew once put on tefillin and then stopped. That's very different than the Jew who never heard about tefillin. Right? So that Jew someone stole his arm. Right? He just wasn't told about his arm. Right? So, okay. That's what happened to most people, is someone stole their Judaism from them. Okay. So that's the Rai Memna. That's Moshe Rabbeinu. Unbelievable. So all of the loftiness of Moshe, that's his chitzonius. What's Moshe really all about? That Moshe's care for you, your physical and spiritual welfare, is absolute and total. K'meichei, the Rebbe told the story that the Rebbe once came home at night with a bag full of letters. He used to have those paper bags full of letters. And the Rebbe's eyes were red and he looked very, very tired. And the Rebbetzin asked the Rebbe if he didn't want to go to sleep for a few hours. And the Rebbe said, he picked up the bag and said, "These Jews need my help, how can I sleep?" Kimeiche, who be spashtusa the mission of Shulchol Dar. Well, you thought you were going to get away with the Rebbe not talking about the Frierdiker Rebbe here, not Shaykh, right? So too, the expression of Moshe in every generation, Ad l'krei kedush Chami Admar, until the Frierdiker Rebbe. It ends there, according to the Rebbe, right? There's no one after that. Ad l'krei kedush Chami Admar balagula. Balagula meaning, of course, this is your base stomach. Shinyana ya ikri ya pnimi. What's the Frierdiker Rebbe really all about? The Rebbe says, "Who's Zeshu Rein Shel Yisrael?" Is that he's the shepherd of the Jewish people. Vanyonim d'Yisrael eminyana d'Nasi, and those aspects that in the matters of the Jewish people are the matters of the Nasi. The Alpi Zeh Yesh Levar. Based on, we're going to go back to footnote 67. Okay, we're going to finish this paragraph. It won't take long. The Alpi Zeh Yesh Levar Iluis. The Rebbe now said something very, very interesting. Now again, it says Yud Beis Tammuz for bringing, so the Rebbe is going to talk about Yud Beis Tammuz. Ha'ilu shenis chadish bagula the Yud Tes Kislev u bagula Yud Beis Tammuz. Ha'yedei Masar. The Rebbe is comparing Yud Tes Kislev and Yud Beis Tammuz. Both Rebbeim were in jail. Same people put them in jail. One group was called Russians, the other group was called Soviets, but they were all the same. So, for the Rebbeim, the freedom was a tremendously powerful expression of Shehu ki Yisra and Or min ha'choshech, the advantage of the light that emerges from the dark. But now the Rebbe asks a very, very powerful question. The L'chura, first glance, cave and Shabbat Geil in the scene. That since relative to the Rebbeim themselves, it's not relevant to say, should be Yosim b'Masar, that when they were in jail, Hayala Gabam, that there was by them any reality of darkness. Keep reading the next line. Kamuvan is understood. Gam mihasicha yadua the balagaula. Also from the well-known sicha of the balagaula of the Frierdiker Rebbe in Likutei Diburim, which we talked about yesterday also. B'negeila masar shalad marzakin, relative to the imprisonment of the Alter Rebbe. What did the Frierdiker Rebbe say? Shemasar yabas kamasar. It was based on his agreement. He agreed to be put in jail. He asked Shmuel Munkish, should I agree? Right? Shmuel Munkish said, well, if you're a Rebbe, there's nothing they can do to you. And if you're not, you deserve it. Because you took away El Mazar from all of your Hasidic. That's what he told them. Right? He said, if you're a Rebbe, there's nothing they can do to you. If you're not a Rebbe, and this is all just a charade, then you deserve this. Because you've made our lives much more difficult. Meaning you're asking a lot from us. You challenge us to live life a certain way that's not that it's not uplifting in a mate, but it's hard. You ask a lot from us. And if that's not real, so you deserve it. It was an interesting chassid of Shmuel Munkus. The mizem moving from the fact that it was baskoma, shelagabam, relative to the rebbeim, hayalomis vesterim, the masar, all the concealments of the masar, himrak bechitzainis, are only in an external way, but not the pnimis. It's not affecting their relationship with the Eibishter. They're able to maintain their incredibly powerful connection to the Eibishter. Yes, there's certain external things that are much more difficult, etc., etc. Adorable, right? That's the whole story of the Alter Rebbe. That the Alter Rebbe actually had a havamina that perhaps this is the story of Ayeka, right? The pnimis of Ayeka. In the story of Ayeka, so the minister came to the Alter Rebbe and he was asking him questions, and one of the questions that the minister asked was, what's pshat in the story? Someone talked about this week. Maybe Rabbi Vichner in the Yud Thomas for bringing. I don't remember that the minister asked, what's pshat in the Chumash where after the whole story of Chet Eitzadas, Adam Arishan is asked, Kadosh Baruch Hu asks Adam Arishan, Ayeka, where are you? So what do you mean, where are you? He doesn't know where he is. The Kadosh Baruch Hu knows everything. So Rashi says, of course, he just asked that question to, so to speak, enter into conversation with him, not to scare him too much. Okay. So the Alter Rebbe said that answer. So now this, I think, is one of the most interesting part of the stories, to be honest. The minister, Russian minister of education, Tsarist government, said, I know what Rashi says. An educated non-Jew in the 1800s. What did he know? You know Rashi and Chumash. Any educated person would know Rashi and Chumash. How could he not know Rashi and Chumash? You're just a boor. Wow. Right? The Russian minister said, I know what Rashi says, he said to the Alter Rebbe. I want to know what you say. So the Alter Rebbe said that the Eibishter is asking someone, Ayeka, where are you? What have you accomplished in your life? And if a person's a certain age, and the Rebbe said an age, and that was the age of the minister, I think it was 54, right? So what have you accomplished, and what more have you got to accomplish? Then when he left, the Rebbe realized that he was talking to himself, because the Rebbe had a havamina to say, okay, Beseder, I'm finished. I'm not lacking anything in here. I can do what I have to do in here. I don't have to be out of here. But no, he realized, no, he has to get out of there. There's more to do out there. So then how by the Rebbeim is there greater light after they were freed? Same question, this is like the third time the same question. How by Moshe is there such a reality? There's that language again. To cave and she'ikir in yanam shel nasim. That since the essential reality of the nasim, who is shehem roya Yisrael, the nasi Yisrael, they are the shepherds of the Jewish people and the leaders of the Jewish people. Lochein, therefore, a helim v'hester da masar. This concealment of the masar, shahaya b'nagei Yisrael, that was affecting the Jewish people. The Jewish people were experiencing tremendous helim v'hester. The Chassidim were in a state of panic. Both Rebbeim had death sentences passed against them, right? Baruch Hashem, they both emerged from that somehow miraculously, but that was the situation. So the Helam V'Hester that the Chassidim were experiencing is Gam L'Gaven Nasim, was also by the Rebbeim. They were experiencing in, so to speak, a clandestine way that the Helam V'Hester of the Chassidim, because they're so tightly connected to the Chassidim. Therefore, L'Chain, the Rebbe says, Ba'gulav Ma'asar, in their freedom from the Ma'asar, K'shachayshach Nefach Lor, when the darkness was transformed to light, Nasi Yisrael. There was a greater light also for them. Amazing. Okay. That's also obviously, he doesn't say it here, for obvious reasons. Gimel Tammuz for us. Right? We're lacking. Is the Rebbe lacking? They're not lacking anything. He's doing just fine. But you think it doesn't bother the Rebbe? It bothers the Rebbe. He's not with us. Absolutely. Why? That's sweet. That's what he wants to do. That's what he wants to be. That's the Rebbe also. Our Rebbe told us, why does we talked about this year based Tammuz. Why is the Frierdiker Rebbe never celebrated Gimel Tammuz when he was let out of jail and sent to exile? Right? He did celebrate Yud Beis Tammuz, for bringing Yud Beis Tammuz, but he never celebrated Gimel Tammuz. Our Rebbe always celebrated Gimel Tammuz. It was for bringing Gimel Tammuz or Sicha or something always, because Gimel Tammuz was the day the death sentence was commuted against the Frierdiker Rebbe, and he was told he was told on Rosh Chodesh, but he left on Gimel Tammuz to Kastramah, to exile. So now the Rebbe explains at great length. The Chassidim didn't know whether that was. I mean, obviously on one hand it was better, but they didn't know whether that was any good either, because exile is not exactly a wonderful state either. But it all worked out because 9 days later the Rebbe got out of that too. So the Rebbe explains, why did the Frierdiker Rebbe not celebrate Gimel Tammuz? Because by the Rebbe, our Rebbe says by the Frierdiker Rebbe, there was no difference between before Gimel Tammuz and after Gimel Tammuz. Before Gimel Tammuz, he couldn't be with the Chassidim, he was in jail, and after Gimel Tammuz, he was in exile, so he also couldn't be with the Chassidim, so why was he celebrating? What's to celebrate? Because his whole Indian is to be with the Chassidim. So Rebbe said, well, man, a long time ago, Rebbe said such a sikh about Gimel and Yud Beis. But so why is the Rebbe celebrating? It's one of the few things that our Rebbe did that the Frierdiker Rebbe didn't. Right? Our Rebbe was a pretty serious chassid of the Frierdiker Rebbe, right? So what the Rebbe explained? Why do we celebrate? Because by the chassid, the etzem mitzias of the Rebbe is the fact that the Rebbe is the Rebbe, and there's that a good thing happened to the Rebbe, so then we celebrate. By the Rebbe, what does he want? He wants to be with the chassidim. That's what we just learned. So he can't be with the chassidim. So then what happened? Nothing happened. So just one. It's time to stop, but I just want to show you footnote 67, and we'll talk about it. We asked the question. Wait a minute, hold on. The way the Rebbe explained this, it does seem to be that now there's a lacking in Moshe. Now the lacking in Moshe is only because there's a lacking in us. But since Moshe is so unbelievably, completely, and totally identified with us, so then that causes a lacking in him, right? I mean, it's something like. If chas v'sholem you're missing a finger, okay, so my hand is missing a finger. I'm not missing a finger. Well, okay, but I am. But I'm missing a finger. It's on my hand, and it's not me, and I don't exist any less, etc., etc. But there is a certain lacking in me, if not me. In Reuven, I don't want to miss a finger. Reuven's lacking in Reuven if he's missing a finger, right? Okay. So the Rebbe says, "Zeh shetfilas Moshe nikra tfilas Osher." That which Moshe's tefillah is called tefillas Osher, even though shechisaron the Knesset Yisrael, that the lacking of the Jewish people, shall zet hispella, that's what he's davening for. Who kamei is like a chisaron shelo, is like his own lacking. So the Rebbe says, Re'eh, go see Dibra Maskal Tefillah L'Moshe Tavshin Chavtes, the mimer that was said 2 days after this mimer, but as we said earlier, was edited 4 months before. So in the edited version, the Rebbe says, go see that mimer that's edited. It's over here. I remember sitting in 770 one Shabbos morning around Yud Beis Tammuz, and I was learning this mimer. I think it's probably the first time I ever learned it. I was learning Zayis, and I saw this footnote. And now in 770, get up and go get a book. You can't get up. I mean, if you've got your place where you are and you don't want to move, right? So, you can, and you'll get it back. But you'll get it back with, this much less room, right? So, that does make a difference when you've only got that much room. So I said, oh, geez, I'd be interested to see that mimer. Then I realized, wait a minute. I was learning melukat. Hey, it was like I just turned the pages back. And I said, so I learned that mimer. Right? So I remember that morning very, very clearly how happy I was when I saw this footnote. It says, Tefillah Moshe Tavshin Le'il. It says earlier on in this book, Reish Chav Chesed Taka, because the Rebbe was Magia, those two mimarim, same year, Tavshin Le'il. So what does the Rebbe say over there? It's really quite astounding. Here the Rebbe doesn't say it. It's so interesting because the Rebbe just left that question in this mimer. Now the Rebbe said a mimer 2 days later and he answered the question. The Rebbe says an amazing thing. The question is as follows. Let's just make sure we understand the question so we can appreciate the answer. The question is, how can we say that Moshe is an usher and Moshe is not lacking if Moshe is so completely and totally identified with the Jewish people that our lacking is his lacking, so to speak, so he has to daven for us? So when he davens for us, he's fulfilling that lacking. But then he's lacking. He's not an usher, so it's not tefillas usher because our lacking is his lacking. He himself is beseder, but we're lacking, so that affects him. So then he's not an usher. This is an unbelievable thing. What does Moshe daven for? The Rebbe says, and this is in the second mimer, the etzem, in essence, the Jewish people also aren't lacking.
Whoa.
We just don't know it.
Oh,
And what does Moshe daven for? That we'll figure it out.
Wow.
that is really.
That is really, meaning Moshe is not lacking. Why? Because we're not lacking. We're not lacking anything. We're also privy to a revelation of Atzmos Ein Sof Shelifnei Hatzimtzum. But I don't know that. And I don't feel that. And I don't experience that. And I don't live that. And what's Moshe davening for? That I should figure out who I really am. And not live the life that I live where I've got, 1 foot and 4 toes in Olam Hazeh, and somehow, my little pinky is holding on to Elokus somehow. No. What's a Yid? A Yid is a chelik Elokam imal mamish. A Yid is a piece of Elokus. And we say a Yid, okay, that's very, very nice. So now I have to say it in a much more challenging way. And I'm not saying it about me any more than I'm saying it about you, but I'll talk about me because I'm me. I'm a chelik Elokam imal mamish, I have to say about myself. It's very easy to say it about you. I have no problem you being a chelik Elokam imal mamish because I don't know all the craziness going on in your head, but I know the craziness going on in my head, so it's very hard for me to relate to the fact that I'm a chelik Elokam imal mamish because I am still thinking about the fact that I spilled my coffee all over the place and I'm looking forward to making another one. And 3 times during the year I said I went to go get my cup of coffee to take a sip and it wasn't there. If anybody wants to know where it was, well, it's all over the floor and you guys missed a lot of action. All right. Okay, so we're people who can still think about a cup of coffee, and maybe worse. I don't know. We don't want to do show and tell. So, what's Moshe all about? What's Moshe begging us to understand? That we're just a little piece of Elokus, walking around in a body. Yes, there's a body, but we know there's this. I mean, it is this bizarre experience that we just take for granted. That there's this me who's just sort of hovering around over there, and me as a body. Right? Sometimes I'm very connected to my body, and I feel my body, and what you're hungry, so you're very connected to that feeling in your stomach. And you're tired, you're very connected to that. Your eyes hurt and your head hurts. Okay, say that we can be very connected to the body, but there's this me who's me. Where is he? Well, okay, he's sort of in there. Right? He's lives in there somehow. It's all this action going on in this gray matter, and that's us. Okay, fine. That's true. But Panemius, who's me? Me is the Nefesh Elokis. That's who we really are. And me means I'm a Nefesh Elokis. And I say I. That I is every single I in the room and every single I you've ever met. Right, is a little piece of Moshe Rabbeinu's neshama that's in Olam Hazeh, that has a tafkid, that has a purpose and has an incredible challenge, and we're supposed to live up to that challenge. And what's Moshe all about? Moshe's whole being, the panemius of Moshe, is helping us deal with that challenge. The chitzonius of Moshe Rabbeinu is just the most amazing person you've ever heard of in your life. Imagine Moshe Rabbeinu, what he must have been like, okay, fine. And then what's Moshe really all about? Moshe's the one who's going to walk away and go save the sheep that wandered away from the tribe. That's how the Ibsen knew Moshe was Moshe, right? How the Ibsen know, the Ibsen knows everything. But what was the act that Moshe did that, so to speak, was that which gave him the job as Moshe Rabbeinu? When he was watching the sheep, so a little shepsel wandered away, and he could have just said, okay, let's say there was one sheep wandered away. I'm sure he had more than one, but he went to find that sheep. That's Moshe. Most of the people in this room were that sheep. Wandered away. Now we didn't wander away because we wanted to. We wandered away because no one told us there was anywhere else to be. Right? Maybe yes, maybe no. It depends on the. Okay. And Moshe Rabbeinu. The Frierdiker Rebbe says such a beautiful thing. He says you see a Jew who's challenged spiritually, so you should be makad of them. He says first with the finger, not with the hand, and then with the hand, meaning very gently. And then when you're not around that Jew, say Tehillim with tears for his welfare.
Wow.
It's just, that's how they relate to Eden. Erst mit der hand, erst mit der finger and not with the hand. First with the finger, very gently. Put him close. No, Ashreinu not okay. We'll go weiter tomorrow.
Yeah.
Good Gimel. Yeah, it's still. I guess that just means there's no video, but there's an audio, which I'm much more in favor of all the time, to tell you the truth.